All right, so this is going to be my software engineering final presentation, and the title is Will AI Take My Job? So, the background and thesis. Over the past few years, we've had a major rise in, AI and large language models, and this has really kind of made computer science majors question, whether it's worth it anymore to go into the field when they think the job could be overtaken by AI. And so, one of the major talking points that this brings up is coding versus software engineering. So, coding is just kind of the process of writing code, whereas software engineering is more of a discipline. It's building, testing, and integrating software to solve a very specific problem, and it's usually a team effort. You have these businesses that have large software teams that are working on these problems and, implementing different applications and all that stuff. So that brings me to my thesis, which is while some aspects of the software development lifecycle have begun to be automated, such as the coding phase, I think that the overall complexities of system architecture, collaborative problem solving, and long term software planning will continue to be in better hands with humans than AI and will not be replaced by it. And so I'm going to kind of take you through the decades and how software has progressed over time. So, starting with the 40s and 50s, this is kind of the time where coding was still a very manual process, writing out all the machine level instructions. So, this was very meticulous and time consuming. And this was also during times of major world wars. So, that's kind of this sort of era of programming. And this was also at the time you can see in the picture where computers were as big as rooms. And so progressing a little bit more, we have the 50s and 60s. This is where we begin to see a rise in higher level programming languages like Fortran and COBOL. And these languages simplified the coding process from the previous decade, made it more accessible. And basically, it made it more accessible by simplifying the coding process because the compilers and interpreters translated the higher level code into machine code. So that was a bit of a one step of automation with these new languages. Fortran, as you can see in the picture, mainly used for scientific and engineering applications, and COBOL mainly used for business and financial applications. So, and then we skip a few decades because they weren't really relevant for my point, but they're in the essay obviously. But so 90s and 2000s, we have the internet age. This is infamous for the dot-com bubble, dot-com boom. We have the World Wide Web, and we have some e-commerce websites that started popping up, such as Amazon and eBay. And the next big sort of automation was Microsoft.NET. Pretty much, it gave companies and engineers templates of code to integrate into their applications, and it reduced a lot of the manual programming time that you would have had to do if it weren't for .NET. And so now that takes us to the modern era where we have LLMs and AI that kind of do a lot of the manual coding work. And so each decade kind of shows that the process becomes easier and more automated. And this goes to show that LLMs will probably most likely automate humans, or yeah, they will basically aid humans, not replace them. And that kind of my argument basically is that throughout time we see, okay, so we have higher level languages now. Now we don't have to write machine code. Now we have Microsoft.NET. We don't have to write these websites by hand. So it kind of goes to show that this is just another part of the evolution of software engineering. And it will probably be a long time before the entire discipline just gets replaced. So I think this will overall just be one more step in automation, not replacing humans.